Call the meeting to order at 6:33. Mr. Councilmember Friend, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we move forward with roll call, please?
Councilmember Valdivia?
Here.
Councilmember Friend? Present. Mayor Velazquez?
Here.
Councilmember Scatini?
Here.
Councilmember Gomez?
Present.
Interim City Manager Avera?
Present.
And Interim City Attorney Thatcher?
Yes.
And Chief of Police Westrick.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And verification of agenda posting, please.
The agenda for the City Council meeting of August 19th was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on August 16th at 2:10 p.m. for Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you very much. City Attorney Thatcher, is there something you want to report out from the closed session hearing?
Yes, the council met in closed session concerning ongoing negotiations with two employee groups, and there's nothing to report out, no reportable items.
Thank you very much. Let's move forward with the oath of office of our new firefighter reserves.
If I can have the three gentlemen meet me up in front of the table, please.
I, Benjamin Hovig,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you for taking the time to help our city, and we all appreciate it, and congratulations. Let's move forward with item A, consent resolution. Are there any items that council members would like to discuss? A5? Any others?
A6. Oh.
A5?
Mr. Mayor, I have a speaker's card for A6.
Speaker cards for A6?
Motion that we approve A1 through 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Let's move to A5.
Good evening.
My question is, where did they come up with the idea that we should pay 50% of this when the county is going to reap the benefits?
What was discussed at the Downtown Association Economic Restructuring meeting is that one of the approaches that the San Bernardino County Council of Governments takes when they have interagency projects that involve the county and the two cities is they distribute the cost proportionally by population. So the city of Hollister has 60% of the population, so it was based on population. And it's one of the ways that some of the businesses operated, just to share costs for things for transportation within San Benito County. And it was thought that would be an equitable approach for this.
Okay. Is there a motion in favor or any
Yeah, I
other
have a question,
questions?
okay. So the cost is going to come out of the budget number 101, and there's two budgets?
That it would come out of the,
General fund?
it would be a
or which-
one-time cost, and it would be from some of the proceeds from the sale of the property for Walgreens.
So that's not the general budget?
No, yes, it is. It's the general fund.
Pardon me?
It is the general fund.
Okay, and this is a figure that we didn't budget in the budget? Okay.
Okay, it would be a supplemental appropriation.
But
Okay, Councilmember Gomez?
just for clarification, it is an augmentation, but it's general fund money that was dedicated for economic development purposes.
That is correct.
And this is something we discussed at the meeting, the first
Prior.
meeting of August.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilmember Scatini?
How much is it going to cost?
The city, the total cost would be $24,750, and the city's share would be $14,850.
Thank you.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have a speaker card for A6.
Marvin Jones.
Marvin Jones, Hollister. When I was reading the information in the package for this, I noticed that the president of Avery Associates was William Avery, and I said, "Is that our Billy?" And just as Jerry called this to to pull it off the consent agenda, I noticed they spelled their names different. So I have no concern about this. I apologize.
Thank you very much.
Make a motion that we approve A6.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item B1.
Item B1?
Item B1,
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the warrant
Second.
registers.
there's a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B2, I'm going to abstain, so I will pass this to Vice Mayor Scatini.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. This is the long-range property management plan for the successor agency. As you recall, this was reviewed at the July 15th meeting and continued to provide an opportunity for outside counsel, Goldfarb and Lipman, to review it as required by the Dissolution Act that eliminated redevelopment in the state of California. This plan addresses how to dispose of successor agency properties, and that's properties of the former Hollister Redevelopment Agency. It examines 4 properties. 2 of them are used for governmental purposes, and the law provides that they could be transferred to the city of Hollister. That's Fire Station 1, and then a small portion of Briggs Alley that is a realigned access to the parking structure as well as Briggs Alley. The other 2 properties are the 400 block and the Leather property. We discussed this at some length at the July 15th meeting. We're recommending that you approve the resolution 2013-04 SA, directing us to submit this to the Oversight Board. As we mentioned at our last meeting, the Oversight Board will need to accept this, and then it's submitted to the Department of Finance for final review and approval. I'd be happy to discuss this in more detail. I'd also like to point out that there's a letter from the Hollister Downtown Association recommending supporting the recommendations in this plan for the for the city of Hollister to have the first option to acquire the 400 block grassy lot. The appraised value is $220,000. And then for the Leatherback property, recommending that there be a development disposition agreement, that the property just not be sold outright, so it can be assured that it works as an economic development tool to try and bring in a retail business that will help close our retail gap, because we have a huge loss of sales tax. In 2008, it was estimated that the leak was over $200 million. But I'd be happy to go into more detail, or do you have questions?
I just have one question, Mary. How many appraisals did you get on that property?
We just paid one,
You just picked one?
correct.
How come you only picked one?
I think
Well,
that's,
part of it is this, is when obviously the city of Hollister owns the property, we've had a really, really good experience with Mike Cullinan, who's a local appraiser here in town. He's done a lot of the work for the city of Hollister. Appraisals are expensive. The city's not necessarily going to go out and do multiple appraisals on the same piece of property for its own benefit. What happens technically, or typically, is what happens is that the city or the seller will have an appraiser appraise the value of the property. Then the buyer will likely do one in the future. And then there can be some discussions or negotiations based on that. But for purposes of getting the process started, we just hire one.
That one, okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the city? Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that the way this reads, we're only talking about approving the buying right now the 400 block.
the way the plan is written, it gives the city the first option to have 18 months to exercise a first option to acquire the property. If that doesn't happen, then the fallback would be similar to Leatherback, where we would want a development disposition agreement, something to assure that it's not just purchased and land banked, or that there's a use that is consistent with zoning that is placed on the property, but it really doesn't function as a catalyst piece that's been envisioned for quite some time in prior redevelopment plans and also downtown strategic plans.
And the Leatherback property now, we're going to, I guess what I'm asking is by sending this to the Finance Committee and sending it on to the state, this takes us out of the situation where if we don't do something with it, the state will?
The law says that we're supposed to sell the property, initially it said as expeditiously as possible, with the eye to maxing money to the taxing entities. It's really about getting the money back to the taxing entities and getting that money. So
actually, there's no time limit on selling and buying it if we want to, right? I mean, we don't have a deadline on it, right?
well, the state hasn't reviewed our plan yet.
Right.
But I think it would be in our best interest to derive property tax from a use on the Leatherback property, and also perhaps we'd hope sales tax and jobs, all the associated things.
Okay,
And
thank you.
fill one of those gaps in our economy.
Any questions?
Yeah, I don't, yeah, I'm definitely supportive of this. I do, obviously, I would be concerned if the Leatherback property would go out without any kind of strings attached to it. I hate to say it, but it's the same thing we went through with the Walgreens property. I would have hated that to go to somebody and just sit there. So I think it's very important to make sure that if we have owned, I'm not saying that we should intentionally go out and start buying properties, but because they are in our hands, we have to make sure that they're put in the right hands, especially when it comes to economic development. I mean, we all understand the situation we're in when it comes to tax leakage. So, and then obviously in regards to the 400 block, I don't think that's really any question. I don't think anybody has any issues with that, but I'm looking forward to this and going up there and hopefully getting an approval. So,
Okay. You have any questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve 2013-04 SA.
You have a
Second.
second? You have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Bring him back.
Okay. Let's move forward with item C1, public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Marty Richmond.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Marty Richmond from Hollister. When I work around the house, I tend to leave my tools sitting wherever I was working on something. And then my wife says, you know, we're getting visitors, and I got to go around the house and kind of try and find all the tools, pick them up, and put them back in the garage. The sign problem here in Hollister looks like everybody just left their tools exactly where they were. We are not enforcing our sign code. I guess the chief mentioned to me earlier this evening that he had the same issue on his Facebook page or one of the Facebook pages. It's a mess. It looks terrible. And you're missing also the revenue you're supposed to be picking up from these signs. And without the revenue, then you have no way to pay for the compliance inspections on these signs. And the people who do pay for their signs are getting robbed because they're paying and everybody else is just putting up wherever they are. I also would like to point out that you are hazarding the members of this community both physically and financially. There are so many signs posted on the stop signs, the traffic control signs. Someone's going to run one. There's going to be a terrible accident, and their defense is going to be, I was distracted, because there's 100 signs posted on that stop sign. Now, that might not fly in a court of law. I have no idea. All I can say is, all you have to do is drive in there. You just authorized $14,000 for way signs. Who's going to be able to see them? We have pole signs here that are unauthorized. They've been in the wind so long, the wind has ripped all the flapping part to shreds. They're up against a roadway, which is illegal. When I ran for office, I put out signs, and I probably put out more than I should have because they're a mess too, but at least we went back and picked them up because that's what the law required. I ask you to do your duty and put the enforcement back in the sign business. And you know, yeah, everybody should get a warning the first time around, but that's enough. We've got flap signs on San Benito Street. Half of them are torn off the buildings. They're just hanging there. It looks like the aftermath of a frat party. It doesn't look like a business district. So I hope you will get to it and do a good job. Councilman Friend, either your microphone isn't on or you're too far away because in the back it's really impossible to hear you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if I could really quick, just to clarify, I know that we're not supposed to take action on any of these items, but I know that I think Marty may have actually missed a meeting once in the past like 10 years, and that I believe that was the meeting a few weeks ago where we actually talked about a revenue generating officer with our economic development funds. So so on this, we might be ahead of the curve on you on this one, Marty. But that was discussed. Obviously, we didn't take action on that, but that is being discussed. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you very
Mr. Mayor.
much. Thank you.
Aurelio Zuniga.
Aurelio Zuniga from Hollister. I'm here today just to kind of reinforce what I talked about at the last meeting on August 5th. And I won't take up too much of your time, but it has to do with the sewer rates. And I know it's not on the agenda and everything, so I'm not asking for a quick response and everything, but I know that every July 1st fiscal year, if I'm correct, you go over them. Is that correct? I don't know if you can answer that or not. But anyhow, what I would ask for you is to give it a serious consideration to lower the sewer rates, if at all possible. And as I spoke last time, we claimed that if there is growth, and that's what we were told when the sewer rates started, was handed out to the people, and it showed that if we had growth, that the rates would decline. And obviously, after 2008, there was a housing collapse, and so there was no growth. I understand that. But now there is, and this is from the planning department, and they have proposed units, 1,349. And out of that, I know that those are not all built out, but there's around almost close to 400 that I can see here. So what I'd like to have you do is, when you next review this, if you could tell us where is the increased revenue provided by the growth, where is that going currently? And also, there's another revenue stream, and that's called the connection fees. And to me, I don't know exactly what the rates are to hook up to a sewer, but when this first started, they proposed $26,200. I don't think that's what it is now, but it's still 400 homes. You're talking, even half of that, you're talking $5 million. So what the public needs to know is, how can that be used? And one of the suggestions from one of the consultants was that if some of that money could be used to pay down the bond sooner. And if that's the case and that's what they're doing, can that help reduce the sewer rates? And so that's what I just want the city council and staff to just take a really, really close look at this, because the people of San Benito County and the city are not just concerned about the water rates or sewer rates, but like I mentioned last time, there's the PG&E is going to raise the rates about 20% in January. The mosquito abatement was increased by 8.1%. The dumping fees out at the landfill were raised by 20%. Sewage rates, garbage rates were up by 4%. So there's a lot of things out there that I think you need to really consider, and anything you can do to help the citizens of this city would greatly be appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think just to follow up on
Sure.
that, not as an action, but the last time you brought this up, I think we directed the staff to come back with a report exactly telling us what.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that that does happen. I appreciate that.
We'll get you something.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Last speaker card for public hearing is Marta Beretta Colser.
For public input.
Yes, very
Thank you.
public.
Hi.
Hi. I live in San Benito County for a couple of years, coming from the East Coast, and I'm a member and I reside at the Vista Meadows, which is here in Hollister. It's a senior community with about 48 apartments, and I have found out, and we have all of us, a problem. I'm asking your help to review your restrictions on parking in the street East Park Street, because now that we have our gate, every time we exit, it's very obvious that on the right side of the street, there is no restrictions on parking. So we usually have a completely blocked visibility by 3 or 4 automobiles, or parking that is not very large and we are not able to see. So it has become a very dangerous, extremely dangerous situation when anyone trying to access this street from our apartments finds that there is a kind of a Russian roulette to find out if there is any cars coming in the opposite direction. So I will ask you very much to review or revise maybe by engineers. If we could have the sidewalk that is very much next to our exit on the right side and restrict the parking there with a red line on the sidewalk. Also have noticed that there is no announcements of speed or restrictions on speed on the street. All that East Park Street has been really nice paved, and so now cars are racing more than before. And with the Walgreens coming up as a business, everybody from El Rancho area are trying to rush through our street to get there. So it has become very obvious for our 50 seniors that we need your help, that we need to restrict certain speed limits. We need to post certain announcement or alert them that we are seniors exiting that area. And most of all, to avoid any parking on the right side of the street, on East Park Street, 108. We sure appreciate it if you do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I just wanted to say, Martha, that I had talked to the city manager, and he's going to send somebody out there on Monday, like I told you, to check out the street, so.
That is
that's the way to be
fantastic.
started.
That is
And
fantastic.
he'll give us a report, and then I was just going to direct staff if we can agendize this for the next meeting, so we can follow.
Great. I have collected like 92% of signatures supporting this situation. So I'm very, very sure that we all will be very happy with your help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So,
Are there any other speakers?
I
No?
would like to have that agendized for next meeting.
Okay, we'll move on. Item D, there is no business. So we'll move on to item E1. It's the resolution number 2013-122 concerning the charges, the update for the water.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this item before you this evening is a continuation of the public hearing that was opened on August 5th, 2 weeks ago. With that in mind, we do have representatives from Sunny Slope County Water District. Harry Blom is here this evening, also from the San Benito County Water District, to answer any questions that might result from the continued public hearing itself. A bit of a schedule would be at the end of the public hearing, the city clerk to report on any of the protests that have been received currently. And at that point, then the council can take action towards the resolution that we're recommending for you to adopt this evening. So with that in mind, Mayor, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to open it to the public. You have the opportunity to come speak. We do want to hear from you. And you're allotted up to 5 minutes to speak on this subject. Please, we do want to hear from you. So if you signed any, do we have cards already? Okay. So I'm going to open it now to public hearing.
Marty Richmond?
Hey, good evening again. Marty Richmond from Hollister. I don't think there's anything about the water rates. I don't use Hollister water. I have Sunny Slope water. It doesn't really make any difference much. I don't think there's anything to be said that has not been said. There's no. I would like to inject two things, though. You know, I went to almost every meeting on the sewer plant, and I supported the $100 million sewer plant. I hope you all remember that, in case I get accused of being some kind of anti-government, anti-tax guy. I'm willing to pay my fair share. And it just surprises me now that people are coming up and saying, well, you know, this was always part of the deal. We can't get the water quality we need out of our sewer plant. That's what I heard last time here. I'm shocked, because I remember we had goldfish. You remember the goldfish? You all remember the goldfish in the bowl, and how that was Title VIII water and you could drink it. It was just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I have no doubt that the experts here could find pieces of paper where meetings were held and people said, you know, the $100 million sewer plant isn't going to be enough. We're going to have to throw another $30 or $40 million. But let me tell you what, if they said it with a very, very, very low voice to make sure nobody heard it. That bothers me, because I think that's the same kind of lousy way to do business with the public. And that brings me to my second point, which is the rate limits should have been specified when this project went up as part of the planning. And I've said that before. This is nothing new for me. You've heard me time and again come up here and say, if you make the rates that you're willing to suffer with as part of the project, then when somebody proposes that you go tie a yellow ribbon around something, one of the things you'll have to look at is, what does that yellow ribbon cost? But what government appears to do most of the time is they spend what it takes, and then they said, you pay whatever it costs. That's no way to do business. And so I've made my objections known. Obviously, we're going to get stuck with it because we were threatened with the sewer plant that we're going to get fined, and now we're being threatened with the water. And tomorrow, I have no doubt that the state of California will threaten anyone that dare breathe the air and expel anything. So let the threats come in. It's only money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Rob Bernowski?
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you. Rob Bernowski. I do not live in the city of Hollister, but I do come with these credentials. Among other things, I am chairman of the Republican Party in this county. I am a board member and secretary of the San Benito County Heritage Foundation, supplying Bellotto Park. I sit on the county committee for school district organization. And of course, I'm a CFO extraordinaire in my own humble opinion. But my wife is also principal of a school, a very popular school. 780 kids attend it. And anybody that knows me and my wife, we just don't get involved in anything and just sit there as a board member and collect the titles. We are actively involved in our respective entities, and we're all usually involved together. And we know a lot of families. And I'm going to tell you some facts here that I really want you to take into account. The families that live in this county and in this city are broke. As I said, my wife is principal of a school, makes a good salary. I'm a CFO, I make a good salary. We are getting feed and taxed to death. We are broke. And I'm telling you, this is the truth for the public to hear. Now, of course, we have kids in college. Tuition is outrageous because they keep raising fees. We do our shopping in Hollister, our sales tax went up. The mosquito abatement tax went up, as other people have mentioned. But more importantly, I started a group on Facebook, San Benito County Water. And I put it out there. How do you feel about this? And I have so many followers, I can't address them. But I pinged them last week. I said, do you still want me to take up this fight? Because I gave a speech to Sunny Slope Water. And people are within the water districts here and things like that, they're posting nasty things and saying how, oh, I'm just political. I'm not saying anything factual. I'm telling you, it's factual. I've walked the neighborhoods. I've walked the neighborhoods with my wife, and she cannot believe the stories people are telling us, how these water increases are the straw that's breaking their back. And the water districts here just don't seem to care. And I want you to care. I'm telling you here today, with all of the people that Jenny and I, my wife and I, come in contact with, they are hurting and they are mad. And they're willing to do something about it. I'm here representing those people. I'm here representing those Republicans that are part of my party that voted that this was going to be the issue that we were going to work on, because we are representing the people that are doing the living and the dying and the breathing and trying to make ends meet here. But anybody who's selling water and dealing with the sewer things, you realize you're pricing people so far your customer is so far out of place, they're going to leave. Some people on my mailing list, 2,000 people long, they sent me this. Hey, we've already moved out of San Benito County. We live in Nebraska now. We live here. It just became too ridiculous. Not just the water, but everything that's being piled on top here. And I really need you to take that to heart. You're making the wrong decision by not at least informing the people. What were the alternatives? What are the other alternatives? Well, let me tell you. Next week, and you're all invited. Everybody in this room is invited. Our state senator will be at the Pendergrass around the corner from 5:30 to 7 to meet with the public. We can ask Mr. Alejo to come here. I'm sure he will come here, and he will help us find a solution. Next week, I'm going to Sacramento to defend something for the water company that I operate in this county. I'm not just sitting still and letting regulators and people that are so far removed from the people in this room and the people paying the bills. I'm trying to do something about it, and I need you to do something about it. I went to Sunny Slope's meeting. The board members didn't even discuss it. We had a standing room only crowd. We delivered several hundred protest letters. They just took the vote. How disrespectful is that? Please do more than that. At least sell it to us. Explain what the issues are. What were the alternatives? A, B, and C. That's what they do in private enterprise. But just don't take this blind vote because some state regulator said, well, there is no choice, or some civil engineer that's employed by one of the water districts says, yeah, this is the only opportunity. Understand it, because that's what Rob Bernowski does. He goes and he understands it, and people respect me for it. I want to give you that same respect. I've never had more than 3 minutes of my life. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Aurelio Zuniga.
Aurelio Zuniga, Hollister, again. What I just want to ask is a few questions. I went to there was a forum here at the American Legion at the Vets Hall, and I attended, and I got to ask a lot of questions, and some of them were answered, but I didn't get a chance to get them all answered. So could I ask them now?
You can, and then the experts will come back up and answer
Okay.
those questions for you.
Okay. The first one is, what will happen to the water rates after 2019? Number one. Okay, what's the other one? Okay, what will happen if the Central Valley project water allocations are reduced to our area? Okay, so that's two. Okay, then the third one is, who will pay to maintain the salt treatment plant and the new plant off of Union Road? I know before it was San Benito Water District, I believe. Is that correct, that we were maintaining it? So now, are they going to have something to say about that, or are they going to share the responsibility with the city and Sunny Slope Water District? I believe they should, but that's the question. And the other one, my last question is, what assurance does the city of Hollister and Sunny Slope Water District have that people with water softeners will discontinue using them? And those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Are there other speakers?
No, not for this item.
Okay, thank you very much. We can have somebody come up and answer. Oh, it's not closed yet. After their, we close the meeting after the
You can
questions
close,
are
you can
answered?
close it now if you'd like.
Okay, we're going to close the meeting. Before we close the meeting, City Clerk, how many protest letters?
I have received 229 protest letters that are valid.
Valid, 220?
Meaning that they are City of Hollister customers.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, we're going to close the public hearing, and we can answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Help me a little bit with some of the questions.
The water rates after 2019?
Yeah, to be reminded, the last rate study the city adopted was in 2006, and the last rate implemented was in 2010. So we've gone a period of 4 years without any rate increases on the water system. Now, at the end or sunset of this existing rate study, again, we'll need to reevaluate what our operations expenses are for the facility, what new regulatory upgrades may be required of the water system itself, And this is a program that revolves on a 5-year cycle, or longer, depending upon the vicarity of the enterprise itself. So again, in 5 years, we'll be doing this again. And so that is probably the best answer I can provide to you with regard to the water rates and what happens in 5 years. With regard to the water supply issues, I believe the second question.
The rationing, yes.
The rationing. The program with San Benito County Water District is probably best answered by Mr. Jeff Catania with regard to the water supply. He's here present.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Catania. I'm the general manager for the San Benito County Water District. With regard to the water supply in the Central Valley project, yes, it's always a concern that the water allocations can be adjusted based upon the hydrology and regulatory environment. What we have done, though, to secure that is we have multiple sources of water that we're going to be using for this project, so it's not just from the Central Valley project. We've got water that we've got banking arrangements in the valley where we take water in years when we get more than we actually need. In the years when it's good, we put that water into those water banks, and then in the dry years, we can recover that water. We've got exchange programs that we've got with other water agencies. And in fact, this year, we're getting back about 6,000 or 7,000 acre feet of water that was exchanged in other periods, and we're bringing back now. So the water supply for this project, we've looked at it very, for a long time and very thoroughly. We're convinced and we're confident that there's going to be sufficient water supply for the project. We wouldn't go forward with the project that we didn't think that we could supply the water for. The water district's going to be responsible for those water treatment plants, and my board would never go forward with a project that they didn't feel that they could supply the water for. If like I said, there are issues with water at certain times, but we've done a really good job of diversifying our water portfolio so that in those years when there's water shortages, we can draw water back that we've and be able to supply the project.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zuniga, what was the last question you had? You had one more question there. Was it two more?
Who will pay for the two operating plants, and how do we guarantee water conditioners will not be used?
It may have been answered with previous conversation, but the question was who's going to maintain the facilities as part of the arrangements, and that responsibility will come with San Benito County Water District as they will become the owners of the facilities. Now, by contract, with regard to maintenance and operations of both facilities, they will be contracting with Sunny Slope County Water District to do the actual maintenance and operations of both facilities.
No, if you can just tell him the question that he can answer.
Rudy, it was what assurance about the water softeners?
The water softeners, yes.
Oh, the guarantee with regard to water softeners and that people will be discontinuing their use. Backing up a little bit further, as part of the city's wastewater treatment facility and the NPDES permit by which we operate under through the Department of Water Resources, it requires that the city adopt and implement a long-term salinity management program. As part of that long-term salinity management program, of course, source water is involved, but there is the need for the city to consider and adopt future ordinance with regard to the reduction or the contemporization of the water softeners that people use within the community. So there will be an ordinance that staff will present to you within the near future for adoption, which will restrict the use of soft water conditioners within the community. Now, the technologies that are available within the industry are very intelligent, and they can minimize the application of salt water. Again, we don't immediately jump off of the groundwater program into the surface water program. There's a transition period that's involved here, and we will actually retain and sustain the groundwater production that we have within the community for emergency management purposes, for those periods of drought, for a number of other reasons that have been identified within the governing doctrine that has been developed and presented to you as part of the HUOP program. So it's an ongoing activity that we will have with regard to public education to try to minimize the use of soft water conditioners and eliminate them, again, by ordinance.
Thank you very much.
Just to his response to my first question.
Okay.
When I asked what will happen to the water rates after 2019, if I'm correct, the gentleman said that in 2019, they'll re-examine them and maybe make readjustments. That's where I get concerned, okay, because what happens is that after 2019, again, I talk about growth. We're going to have more people on the system, so you're going to have more revenue being generated. So I'm hoping that after 2019, the rates should not go up.
That concerns me too. So, Mr. Bloom, if you could come up and address that question, and also let's understand clearly, I think the public deserves to understand why we're in this position, and it's not something that the council has just decided that we want to raise rates on the public for no reason. I think it's very important to make the case exactly why this is happening.
All right, why don't we start with that part first and then go to what may happen in the future. I'd like to point out that the agencies, and there were 3 agencies at the beginning. Ultimately, there were 4 agencies that formed a governance committee. And that governance committee looked at both the water and the wastewater issues commencing in 2005. So that, in fact, we had meetings, attempted meetings at least once a month, and sometimes more frequently. They were noticed, and the public was invited. And we explained at every one of those meetings what the goals would be and the criteria against which solutions would be judged. I'd like to point out that on your council, you have 4 sitting members that were part of that governance committee. Not continuously, but over significant parts of the development of the solutions. So we got here because there are regulatory issues, and there are quality issues and reliability issues. And the judgment of the political involvement, as well as the professionals from your management, said that if we do not take action now, we will have problems in the future. So that this was an open and transparent process. It was to address the groundwater degradation that others have mentioned tonight. It was to mention the reliability of the project and to ultimately deliver higher quality water throughout the community, because some parts of the community, particularly the west side of Hollister and the older central part of Hollister, were not receiving good quality water. In fact, they were, it is not dangerous water, as someone said two weeks ago, but in fact it does have salt, taste, and odor and hardness issues. So we got here because of the judgment of the professionals and the people who sat and participated with the professionals, as well as the public members who saw fit to attend. We had public hearings, we had good turnouts and poor turnouts, but these were open and transparent. So we got here because there are problems to be addressed. They've been mentioned previously, and this solution that has been before you for the last several months, because I presented on it, and ultimately requires a rate increase, has been presented to you with a logical sequence of events that tells us what we must do and that it is logical that we have to pay for it at this time. Now, what happens in the future to the rates? The rate consultant...
Before we go to the rates, let's discuss from the state aspect of this whole deal. What if we were state, we don't care what you say? We don't want to improve our water.
I'd like to call your attention to a couple of things. I wasn't here during the entire wastewater plant and the reclamation plant development and moratorium. I was here in the latter stages. But there was a great attempt to push back against the regulators, and it failed. At the end of the day, you had to build a new plant and meet the regulations. The second thing that happened is the city of San Juan has also tried to avoid meeting the state regulations for their water supply. And I pointed out to all of you that they are facing fines of approximately $136,000 for 700 connections. And that's a lot of money per year for 700 connections. You have almost 6,000 connections. So it would be very expensive not to meet the state regulations. And you can, I'm sure, some people will insist that it's possible for you to fight those regulations, but at the end of the day, there are some that you will not be able to win. And one of them is the disinfection byproducts. I've been accused of speaking in drab technical speak. And I'd like to point out that whether it be drab, but a disinfection byproduct is a real issue, and the state is taking action, and you and Sunny Slope County Water District will have to meet the new regulation for disinfection byproducts. Disinfection byproducts are carcinogen. They were very difficult to measure up until now, but they are measurable, and you'll have to meet those regulations. Does that answer your question, more or less?
More or less. Go on to the rates now.
All right. The rates were, as Rudy Golnick and others have pointed out, and your rate consultant, you have to operate on a balanced budget, and the numbers that were given to you, the one that's been bandied about the most is this $30 million capital cost item. There's $15 million for the city and $15 million for Sunny Slope County Water District. There are water costs that are associated with that as well. So 1/3 of the project is capital. 1/3 of the project is water costs just to buy the water, and 1/3 is approximately, it's mostly what we call operation and maintenance, where it's the chemicals and all of the things that you have to add. So that as we go into the future, we don't know what the costs of chemicals might be, but the analysis that was directed by your staff and performed by Raftelis and Associates took a very conservative approach to the development of those rates based upon conservative costs. We don't have a crystal ball, but it is unlikely that there'll be a radical cost requirement or rate adjustment needed in the future. But we don't have a crystal ball, and we can't guarantee that. We can say there are other things that are going on. One is that we put in a very conservative number for dealing with the threatened endangered species, our favorite critter, the California tiger salamander, that I've presented in drab technical speak previously. It's a real problem. The state is in charge, and we're negotiating very, very hard on that issue. So there will have to be some mitigation measures included. We're hopeful that the number that we've included in our costs will be reduced. And then last but not least, the San Benito County Water District, along with all the other agencies, has submitted an application for a grant, and that grant will be in the neighborhood, if we were to win it, would be in the neighborhood of $3 to $3.5 million, which would help offset the capital cost figure of $15 million that I mentioned to you previously. So we're not sitting idly by. We understand that it's very difficult for some families to deal with rate issues, but all of the elected officials all of the staff and all of the people who took the time to meet with us, presented their case, and I believe that the solution that we have developed is one that meets the goals and holds prices to the absolute minimum.
Okay. There's one point you made about the water quality here locally by stopping the use of softeners and the importing of water. What happens if we don't do something? What happens to the water we have here? Do you want to kind of expand on that? I mean,
a pound of salt is a pound of salt, and if it goes into the groundwater, it degrades it. And that, I think Mr. Catania presented to you at one of our presentations, that we have something called a closed basin here, that we continue to recycle our water. And that was presented at governance committee meetings, and the people on your council are well aware that as we add salt and we do nothing to relieve that addition of salt, then we add salt, and then the water's used again, and then we add salt to it. So it's cycled because we have essentially a closed basin. Very little water leaves the basin through underflow. What does leave goes across a kind of an underground knob at Chittenden and enters the Pajaro Valley. So the hope is that we can follow the model of Santa Clarita, California. They did not impose a complete moratorium on water softeners, but they worked with an education program to reduce the use of water softeners. And the last thing that they did was they worked with people so that they would modernize their water softeners, so that the technology, and I know that you're all aware that technology is improving in this area, that the amount of salt that is used and then would be put into your wastewater system would be reduced with the better use of technology.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask fellow council members, Councilmember Friend, if you have questions or statement.
No, I think all my questions were answered by Harry long ago. So I understand we're up against the wall. That's where we are. And by my figures, we're not looking at $135,000 a year. We're looking at $1.2 million a year if we do nothing. That's what the state's going to come up and ask for. That will fold us up, fold the tent up. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I know this is a difficult time. It's a difficult time for everybody, including myself, like it was when we had the sewer, when we had to deal with the sewer. But it's really important. I think somebody mentioned it, that these are things that had started a long time ago, and I will say a little bit something about the sewer. The sewer, we had the same sewer for years and years. The building kept going up and up and up, but the sewer did not have the capacity to deal with all the growth. So guess what? The sewer blew up. That's how I see it. It blew up, so we had to deal with it because it spilled into the levee. Guess who got on our backs again was the board, the water board, and which they do with everybody else. So that needed to be fixed, and we had a moratorium. I think it was 8 years. Was it 8 years or more? No building, no nothing until we dealt with it. No building, no job. So it hit the community, and the impact was great. But something had to be done. And now we're talking, so, because of what happened, now we're talking about the water rates. One thing that's important, everybody understand, this is also has been started working, like Harry said, for years. It didn't start today. We didn't agree. We didn't meet last month and decide that the rates need to be increased. There's been a lot of work, and it's going to be for the betterment of the community. I know, and I sit here also with turmoil because of the increase and how it's going to affect especially our fixed income folks, the people that are out there, the seniors, the families, right? And the economy is starting to pick up a little bit. We're starting to see more building, more people are working, which is good. But if we, and this is my personal opinion, if we don't do this right now, it's gonna be worse later. And hopefully, by doing this, the rates will stay like that for a long, long time, like they were in the past. The sewer rates were, I'm assuming I wasn't here then, they were the same for a very long time until it blew up. Then we had to deal with it. We got through that phase, and now we're looking at our water quality. And, you know, a lot of this is not really under our control. Like Harry was saying, the state water board, they have a lot to say in terms of what we're going to be doing when it comes to the safety of the public. So we don't want to continue to have our hands slapped all the time or say, okay, that's it, or whatever. We're going to make sure that they're going to charge us a lot of fees for not doing what we're supposed to be doing. But I do, I want everybody to know that it's a very hard thing to look at. And I'm hoping that when we get the report from Billy concerning the sewer, because I think Aurelio asked about maybe the possibility of lowering the sewer to offset the cost of the water. And one of the things that I want to look at too is when we refinance and get a lower rate, I want to see that saving goes to the customer, so we won't have to increase, because, we had a plan, like we have a plan here today. But it's really important that, people understand, and, the folks here, call, or maybe call the manager or even Harry to explain. But there has been continuing communication with the community. Public hearings, it's been discussed here in Sunny Slope, the government's committee that a lot of us have belonged to, but it just didn't happen today. For me, that's important that everybody understand that it started. So it was in 2005 or earlier?
205 was our first
205
governance
when we
committee.
started, and even to get the district together was a huge accomplishment, because everybody was doing this. I'll say this. We were not all in one plate to work together, but to get everybody in the same room and to come up with agreement to do something like this was a huge accomplishment for this community. But anyway, I just want to say that, and I just, I know it's difficult, but hopefully in the future it will stabilize, and just stay like that for a very long time.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
There's a few things. I don't have anything for Harry. I don't know if he wants to get off his feet, but or if anybody else had any questions for him. But may want to see in that front seat there, Harry. Number one, I do want to say, like Councilwoman Valdivia just stated, we've been working on this issue for years, and I think it's kind of unfortunate that now I'm seeing some faces kind of come out of nowhere when it comes to this issue. I got to say I'm a little disappointed, but not necessarily totally surprised. Just kind of a bummer. I do want to clarify something, Mr. Mayor, and at times I get a little emotional, but there was a statement made by somebody from the public about sitting here and doing nothing. And I do want to clarify one thing. Nobody up here sits here and does nothing. I left my house at 7 a.m. this morning. I drove home. I saw my 2-year-old and my 10-year-old daughter for 5 minutes. I come here, and I'll be home at 9:30, and everybody will be asleep. So honestly, I take offense to any kind of statement that anybody would accuse me or anybody up here of sitting here and taking titles. To be completely honest with you, I think that's a bunch of BS, if you ask me. So thank you very much. When it comes to the water issue in general, I can't say that I totally worry when I'm taking a shower or watering my lawn or doing anything like that I'm completely worried about the water quality, or the water coming out of my, I got to say it's not one of my top priorities when I wake up in the morning. So I guess I do take it for granted at times, unfortunately. But I will say that there are places, there's things that I think that we've done in the past. The Hollister has had, I'm born and raised here in Hollister, and I remember in the 80s growing up, it was the laugh of the town, the quality of the water. Oh, it's Hollister water. What else do you expect? It smells, and it's a weird color, and it's unfortunate. I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be in the situation that the city of Watsonville and the Pajaro Valley is in right now. They're in a terrible situation. But it's because, as my fellow mayor and council members have mentioned, it's because action was delayed. And though it hurts me to sit here and support any kind of increase for anything, at the same time, I have to make decisions that are right for the community and what's best for us in the future. And that's why we're elected. That's why folks voted us in, was to make those decisions. Not easy. And, you know, it's easy to point fingers and accuse people of doing nothing, but it's hard to be up here and making certain decisions like this today. So though I'm not supportive of increases, I'm not standing here and supporting a water rate increase. I'm not. But I am sitting here, supporting better quality water for our residents and our users. It'd be foolish for me to take a stand here and say, no, I'm not going to stand for water rate increases, and that's that. No new taxes, whatever. It'd be foolish to do that because I personally think, because I'd just be kicking the can down the road, and I'm not that kind of individual. I'm not going to sit here and allow my future council members here in 5 or 10 years to deal with a massive water issue. If it hurts and somebody doesn't like me for making this decision, you know, that's part of the job. You know, I mean, people like decisions we make. Some people don't like decisions we make. But I don't do it for myself. I do it for my daughters. I do it for my wife. I do it for my grandchildren. Hopefully they'll want to stay here in Hollister and San Benito County. That's why we make those decisions. We make those decisions for the future of our residents here in the city of Hollister. And that's why I'm supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Gomez. Councilmember Scatini?
I don't know where I can say it. I think everybody's just said about everything I would say. I can tell you that I've been on that water board since Harry Bloom came to the water district. I was on the water board. I'm still on today, 7.5, almost 8 years. And I can tell you that there was a lot of thought and a lot of hours and a lot of hard work went into this decision. And like Harry said, that we had public meetings, we had press releases, we've been talking to a lot of people. We all discussed it. It's no secret to me. And if anybody knows me, that I'm not one that will give any tax raise or raise any rates whatsoever. I sat up at that podium one time here not too long ago, and I said to the city manager that I want to see the sewer rates reduced. Why can't we do something for these retarded people that are on fixed income? And I said, I want you to look into it and see if we can drop the rates or we can make it more feasible for the people. And whatever happened to that? You know, I followed up on it, but he said he couldn't do it. The mayor and I right now and the rest of the city council members are working on something that refinancing the bonds. We're doing everything we can to make it more feasible for the people in the county. And I can tell you, I'm not one to raise rates, but it's a must. We have no choice. I tell that, if I said that once, I must have said it 100 times in the last 2 weeks. We don't have a choice. We have to raise the rates, or else we'd be like San Juan Bautista with a huge fine against us. I put a lot of effort into this. I'm not one that sits here and sits on my duff and not do nothing. I spend about 30 hours a week in the city, plus council meeting nights. And I can tell you right now, we have to do it. There's no question about it. We have bad water. I get my water from San Juan Bautista, believe it or not. I get it from McAlpine Lake. It's pure water from what I understand, and I like drinking it. I asked Harry one time during this new water plant we got if we can drink that tertiary water that's out there at the lake. It's third degree tertiary water. I think it's third degree, isn't it? And he said, yeah, you can drink it. I said, well, I'll tell you what. You try it first. You drink a half a gallon. If you like it, then I might sample it a little bit. But anyway, it's hard. It's hard to tell the people that we have to do this, but we have no choice. That's the bottom line. That's all I got to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Scatini.
Thank you.
I think Councilmember Friend probably said it the best. $1.2 million fine each year, and perhaps a building moratorium. And I'm wondering what the crowd would be like next year when we're hit with that fine and with that building moratorium, because we decided it was just easier to have people like us. I agree with Councilmember Gomez. I'd rather be home with my baby tonight and listen to her talk about her first day of school, and my son also, than some of these hard decisions. But all of us ran to try to make our city better. And sometimes those decisions aren't popular and they're hard to make. And I'll guarantee you, not one of us here wants to see an increase. But there are things here that give me some hope. I think one of the things that impressed me was the partnership this time. I'll tell you what, if the city of Hollister decided just to do this on their own, it'd be a lot more than what we're talking about. But for once, we're understanding that partnerships between government agencies help reduce the cost. If we had done that a few years back with the sewer and different things, we'd be talking a different price right now on some of our sewer rates. But we learned a lesson, and we are working together now, and I'm happy to see that. I know that is making a huge difference. If you were here at the last meeting, I talked about a few things that finally convinced me that we need to go forward on this. One of them was, an example is Kettleman City. Now, Kettleman City, you can't drink that water. Or if you do, you're probably going to have some problems. There's a very high birth defect rate over there. And I don't think any of us want to see something like that happen here, because we've decided to kick the can down the road, as Councilmember Gomez said. I think we care enough about all of you and our families to make sure we're providing you with the best water we can. Councilmember Gomez said it. It used to be a joke about drinking the water here in Hollister. How much longer do you want to live that joke? Shouldn't we be able to go home and drink our own water without worrying about our lifespan? You're entitled to that. And we have to do the right things to make sure that happens. Another thing that really got to me was San Luis Reservoir over here, and how leaders in the past decided they needed to work on an idea to solve future issues. San Benito County, Santa Clara decided they were going to work together. Santa Cruz, Pajaro Valley decided we didn't need to do that. Now they don't even have enough money to buy their way back in, and they can't afford to do it. If you ask them what they think about their water, you'll be happy that you live here. They have major issues because of a lack of vision and understanding what will become of their community. We're not going to do that. We're going to do the best we can to make these things affordable. Councilmember Valdivia talked about it tonight. We're looking to find a way to refinance the bonds on the sewer plant, find ways to save money. We have several developments in line now, and once those start coming through, that is going to help offset some of the cost on some of these issues. And we're going to work hard to make sure that's passed straight to you. That's not going to be used for some pet project somewhere. It's your city, it's your water, and we're working hard to make sure you have the best. Again, we're not happy about it, but we know it's a decision that we have to make here tonight. It's a hard one. So we ask you to work with us and help us through all this. And we will do the best we can to make sure that we keep those rates in check in the future. So I want to thank all of you again for taking the time to be here and letting us know your thoughts, because it is important how you feel. With that, is there a motion from council?
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2013-122.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will take a 5-minute break. We'll move to the next item, 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, everyone, we're going to reconvene the meeting now. Let's move on to item E2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is a resolution. It's a public hearing item also. This is for the West Gateway Streetscape Beautification Plan. The genesis of this was with our former redevelopment agency. They entered into a professional services contract with San Benito Engineering in 2009, and in a large part of 2010, they spent doing community workshops, meeting with property owners, reviewing scenarios for the streetscape beautification plan. It was reviewed by the former redevelopment agency board conceptually at the end of 2010. The brakes were put on the progress with this when there was a proposal to abolish redevelopment. The way the legislation was introduced, we were barred from doing certain activities. Bottom line now, we are at a position to move forward with the approval of the streetscape beautification plan. I'd also like to add that part of this also interfaces with our general plan. When the city updated the general plan in 2005, they changed the vision for that part of our community from a highway commercial and industrial area to a mixed use, the West Gateway special planning area. There's criteria in the general plan for that called for it to have limited entries and exit points on main roads, and also a common landscape treatment. The general plan also called for things just such as this, as a beautification plan with provision for bicycle lanes. This coordinated plan does take advantage of an 84-foot right-of-way that was the former State Highway 156. So because there's that ample right-of-way, there's room without much acquisition of private property to add on-street parking between landscape bulb outs, intersection bulb outs, to add a Class 2 on-street bike lane with area for bus turnouts. It will also envision replacing the dual left turn lane with a landscape median, and the first traffic circle in the city of Hollister would be replace the traffic light at the intersection of Graff Road and San Juan Road with the traffic circle that would be landscaped. We also heard when we did the zoning update to implement this new West Gateway special planning area in the general plan, we had some property owner meetings, and one of the things we heard from property owners is that if this is going to function as a mixed-use area, the city needs to do something to calm the traffic down. We see this streetscape beautification plan as one of the tools to accomplish that, because there'd be the landscape, the intersection bulb outs will reduce the width for crossing for pedestrians. The landscape median also will be a way to help provide landscaping, which is one way to help calm traffic down, and also the traffic circle will slow traffic entering the city. The landscape plan was prepared by Anita Kane Landscaping. It's designed to provide a visual transition to the city with a progression of native trees between the San Juan Hollister Road Bridge and Graff Road, and then from there it transitions to Newport Flowering Plum and Crepe Myrtle, and then in the landscape median there would be October Gray Maple, Chinese Pistache, and Southern Live Oak. The plan was reviewed by the Development Review Committee, and changes were recommended to the streetscape beautification plan based on their input. Part of their criteria was looking at maintenance, and some of the trees were changed based on their input. As I said previously, the progress on this was delayed due to the dissolution of redevelopment. So we sent a letter to property owners in June, I believe, just letting them know, giving them a status report on where we were, why progress had been stalled, and letting them know that we would be bringing this to the Planning Commission in July and to you in August. That was our plan. We took it to the Planning Commission in July, and they recommended approval, that the council approve this plan. We did receive one letter from a property owner. It's included in your packet. They were seemed to be concerned that they would be losing property, and I think it's probably just a matter of communication. Maybe we didn't communicate well enough. The city won't acquire any of their land. The property that would be used would be for their access driveway. It would be a shared driveway. There's a rendering in your transmittal staff report that shows it would be a shared driveway with the neighboring property owner. And again, that reinforces one of the design guidelines articulated for the West Gateway Special Planning Area, to have that controlled access that's limiting entry points to main roads. It seems right now we're in the process of beginning a complete streets planning process on the Tres Pinos corridor, where we're trying to fix what's broken there, because we have so many driveways where there wasn't really that thought about coordinating that, making sure that it would function well, not just for cars and property owners, but also for the pedestrian and a person on a bicycle or trying to use a bus. A mitigated negative declaration was circulated for this plan last spring, and it was adopted by the City Council. Staff recommends that there be no change to that environmental document because there's not been any major new development on the corridor or substantial changes to the project that's being proposed or the circumstances under which it will be carried out. We're recommending that the council conduct a public hearing and then approve Resolution 2013-123. Are there any questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
In a few moments, we're going to open it up for a public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this item, please fill out a card so you have your turn to speak. You have 5 minutes. At this point, it is open for public hearing. Are there any speakers?
Fernando Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. I'm Fernando Gonzalez. I own the True Value Hardware Store on San Juan Road. And the property owners met several years ago, hired a private consultant because there was a need to improve the safety and beautification of the area. And I want to thank Bill and his staff when those meetings were going on. And then the RDA took it up. I know Mary and Abraham went to these meetings and heard what the property owners wanted to do. I know Robert Scatini, he was part of those meetings. He came to all the meetings. We had them at the school, at Calaveras School Library, and we invited the public, and so there was a lot of support for this. The one thing is, it's called a beautification plan, but it also should be included a safety plan, because between
West Side Boulevard and Miller Road, there isn't a single way to safely cross that road. So this is really also a very big safety plan. The other thing I noticed is there's people on wheelchairs, and there is no sidewalks in many parts. So you're on a sidewalk, then the person on the wheelchair has to get on the street, and so it's dangerous. The other thing is this plan brings a theme to the whole Westgate, which is a big improvement for the community, because as people come into town, this is what they see coming in from the Salinas corridors or the 156. So I'm supportive of it. There are some things in the plan that I'm not supporting or didn't feel, but overall, I'm very supportive of it, and I just wish that the council would approve this and go forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other speakers?
I have no other speaker cards for this item.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Councilmember Friend?
No, I have nothing. I think we've been through this for the last 6 or 7 years quite a bit, and I think it's about time to put this on the table and let's get it started, done, do something. I think that's a way to improve the crosswalks. I agree with Mr. Gonzalez. That's terrible. There's nowhere to get across the street there.
Councilmember Valdivia?
I just want to say very quickly that I also support the project. Like Councilman Friend was saying, it's been in the works for a while, and I think it's going to, once it gets accomplished, it's going to really it's going to be a good gateway into Hollister, and I think it's really important, and hopefully that will also entice more business to come into the community because of the properties that are there for commercial, et cetera. And I think in the past we've been talking about some mixed-use housing in that area. So that's the start, and I think we'll be in the right good direction to do this.
Thank you. Councilmember Gomez?
Yeah, nothing really other than it's nice to see this progress. Like Councilmember Friend said, I grew up on that side of town, and honestly, Fernando, it looked the same as when I was growing up there in the 80s and 90s. It's nothing's really changed. So I agree, especially being the entryway to the city, we definitely have to make that investment. I do also want to say that Fernando brought up a few good points. Number one, it's nice to see that you guys were working collaboratively with other property owners, because you don't always see that happen when property owners actually willfully work together. That's unheard of almost these days. So it's nice to see that. That's good. And I think overall, another point that was made by Mr. Gonzalez is the pedestrian safety issue. Having those bulb outs and cutting the distance for pedestrians to travel across the street. Obviously, we know that chokers do help people slow down. You know, it's a psychological thing. If the road's smaller, people drive slower. So the bulb outs, I think, are key, I think, to slowing people down and allowing them to shop eventually when we get those stores in there. So it's just good to see this item move forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Scatini?
Like Fernando said, I've been going to these meetings, all the meetings that they had on this project. I've been after the city for, 6 years now to clean that Westgate area up. The only problem I see right now is nobody has mentioned those rocks there on the bridge. Are we going to leave those rocks there? It looks really nice, very decorated, the city of Hollister. I must have got 45 calls or contacts with people so upset with those rocks along that thing. And Bill,
I know, we had a discussion earlier. Let's keep it positive.
Well, Bill and I had a real nice discussion about
Thank you for
those
saying
rocks.
it's nice. Well, we'll fix it.
But at any rate, no, I'm very supportive, like the rest of the council members mentioned. It's going to really make an improvement coming into town.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just make one little comment. What I would also like to see, and I don't know if it's in the plan, but also have a really nice welcome sign in that area. I think that's one thing that would be really great also, to welcome folks when they come in, because it's in one of our gateways into Hollister. So-
It is in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. I think, obviously, this has been long overdue, and I'm pleased to hear or see it coming through, and I know a lot of people worked on this for many of years, and looking forward to the west side of town, having a new gateway, bringing people in with a smile on their face. So thank you very much for all the hard work going into this. With that, is there a
I'll make a motion.
motion?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve 2013-123.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on to item F1.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item
Let
before you...
me,
sorry.
City Manager, because of the potential of a conflict of interest, I'm going to recuse myself through item F1 and F2, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor Scatini.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Good evening again, Council. The item before you this evening, the first resolution, is a resolution that started essentially with direction from the council and staff. In 1996, the city of Hollister held its first motorcycle rally. It was a year before the 50th anniversary of the event that happened in 1947. And since then, off and on, the city of Hollister has hosted several rallies. With one of the major sort of hiccups in a lot of these things is whether or not it was going to be a consistent thing and whether it was going to be an annual thing. After what appears to be a fairly successful rally in 2013 over July 5th and 6th, what we're asking to have happen is have the council make a commitment to the rally for the next 10 years. And what this will do, a couple things, but most importantly, it lets people know that we are committed to this. It will allow us to bring in major sponsorships, major companies or larger companies, I believe will be a little bit more willing to participate in the rally, knowing that they're going to be here every year on the first weekend of July, if that's ultimately what we end up doing. And the second part is the vendors, who also play a major part in this, will put us on their schedule. And as you know, most of those folks travel almost every weekend to various parts of the country selling their goods. And in order to have a successful rally, we need vendors as well. So one of the things that, again, staff is looking at doing is that this event is painstakingly in its preparations. It takes hours and hours and hours. We believe that if we know we're going to be doing it every year, year in and year out for the next 10 years, we can get in the right mindset, and we can make sure that they are successful, very successful in the future. What I've said all along is that Hollister is very fortunate, community of our size and our location, to have something like this kind of fallen in our laps, and I think it's time that the city of Hollister embrace it, take full advantage of it, and welcome the folks that enjoy motorcycles, quite frankly. As I said, it's not necessarily all easy, but at the end of the day, it brings people to town, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about for years and years and years, is how to take advantage of that tourist dollar and making sure that we stay on the map. I think the bigger this event gets, the more national notoriety we get, which is going to be a lot better than just people thinking that we're a name on somebody's shirt. So with that, I'll answer any questions. I know there's probably some folks that'd like to speak on this, but I will recommend that the City Council adopt the resolution 2013-124, making a commitment to have this rally for the next 10 years.
Should we go to the vote first? You got any speaker cards on this?
I do. Marty Richmond?
Marty Richard from Hollister, and as you all know, I'm in support of the rally. I was in support of it when I ran for office. I know many of you were in support of it. And I wrote a column after the rally and say, I'm glad I was wrong because I didn't think we had enough time left to get it done in 2013, but we did, and you all did a good job. Unfortunately, the mayor's had to lock himself up, so you can't hear me say this. But the mayor and all of the council and all of the people involved, all the volunteers, the promoter or manager, whatever you want to call them, the downtown association, all the businesses involved, the public, the nonprofits, I could name them all. The answer is how it turned out, and it turned out really well. And I've said, I'll steal a line that I wrote in my book that I heard soon after the rally was through by a sportscaster. His name's Mike Greenberg. And he said, we live in an event-driven society. He was talking about events. And we do. We live in an event-driven society right now, whether it's a show at the Coliseum, whether it's a ball game at the AT&T Park, or whether it's a trip to Disneyland, whatever it is, that's what we are. We are very oriented toward entertainment. We are fortunate enough in this nation to have enough disposable income, even after paying the water bill, that we can go out and enjoy ourselves a little bit. So, for a small place like us, having an event is important, not just for the days of the event. If the event gets anywhere near break even, we are way ahead, because our businesses get known, our place gets known, and that's why I was earlier concerned about what it looks like. You put those way signs up there because you want people to see those signs, and you want somebody to say, oh, look, they have the national park just down the road here at 30 miles. They have this and they have that. No, you've heard it all before, and I'm stating the obvious, but you know, sometimes you got to state the obvious because it gets lost in the buzz. I think you should commit. I know that's an enormous commitment, but I think we ought to commit to it, because only by committing to it will we have the incentive, if we have some bumps in the road, to smooth them out and get over them. Without that commitment, every time you have a bump, we just turn the key and we walk away for 2 years, and then you have to start all over again. We can't learn anything from year to year. One of the most important things on any kind of event like this is a lessons learned meeting after the event is over, usually 2 of them. One right after the event when everybody's memory, and I will wrap up, thank you, and when everybody's memory is good, and one a few weeks later to say, what shall we change? What lessons do we learn? So I support this, and I won't make a speech on the next item. I support the next item on the agenda, too. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Vice Mayor, just for the record, Marty admitted that he was wrong on something. Just wanted to make sure that was in the record.
I should put that on record. Any other speakers?
Sharice Tyson. Hi, Sharice Tyson, Hollister, Council, Chief. Oh my God. I was just showing KSPW8 reporter my guest book earlier today with people from Germany and France and Australia and England, and a lot of people come other times of the year because they can't get here 4th of July. But I would say for those people in those countries, if they know this is a committed event, then we'll have people planning their vacations years in advance from all over the world. And so I think a 10-year commitment obviously is awesome. And without this rally, I don't know what I'd be doing right now, because the economy still stinks as far as I'm concerned and from what I'm seeing. And I really need this rally, and I think our city does, and it will help us all in so many ways. And if my water bill is going to go to $450 at home and $1,000 at the bar, we got to have a commitment on this rally. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharice.
I have no other speaker cards.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the council.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Go ahead.
I have something I want to share with everybody. And so I'm glad that this is coming before us. I was concerned about the 10-year commitment, but if that's something that folks are comfortable with, that are, working closer with the event, then, then it makes no sense. At first, I thought a 5-year was good, but if the support is there for the 10-year commitment, I'm supportive of you folks as well. But I do want to share just a little story so people kind of understand the impact of the rally. And I didn't think I was going to share something like this, but I'm going to, and that my wife has the pleasure of running now with 20 teenage employees. Haha. But so we, as I've stated before, you know, the rally doesn't have an impact on us. We're taking baked pizza. I don't think bikers going to come into town with an oven. So it doesn't, for those days that the rally is happening, it doesn't impact my business in a good way. And honestly, it didn't really have an impact in a negative way. But this I do want to say. For about 2 or 3 weeks after the event, my sales spiked. And I know that Sharice's employees, other employees that work in the downtown area, or even the grocery stores, the gas stations, it put money in their pocket. And those people do purchase our products. And the residual effect that the injection of outside money had on the city of Hollister was, I believe, pretty awesome. And I didn't know, you know, you can't measure it by just the impact that it has on those dates. You have to look at it overall and how it impacts the community. And I do have to say that it injected quite a bit of money into the community. It was, this has nothing to do with the management of it. The management of the event I thought was great, at least from my distance that I saw it. I thought it went wonderful. But I think from an economic perspective, it had a residual effect for weeks for local business owners and small business owners like myself. When people buy my product, you know, I'm not a millionaire, so they're feeding my kids. They're giving a little bit of spending money to my wife, and they're having an impact on local families as well. So I just wanted to share that even though you might not directly be positively impacted by the event, it definitely has a positive residual effect for the rest of us that don't necessarily see the money initially. So anyway, good job, and I'm supporting this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Pauline, you have anything you want to say?
No, I just think that I also support the 10 years. I think it's, you know, that way we don't have to deal with this every year, number one. And number two is, you know, it's good for the community. This is what the community wants, and I think it, you know, benefits the entire community. And I think I support this.
Thank you. Ray?
Well, I think I've said enough about the rally. I think everybody knows where I'm coming from on the rally. For years, I thought it was just terrible that the city was letting all that notoriety, whatever you want to say, was handed to us, and we were just wasting it. The advertisement, the world-renowned rally, whatever you want to call it, hurt this city when we needed to bring in tourist money. We needed to bring in some more businesses that maybe this commitment would help some of those businesses commit to Hollister because they know the rally's coming. I think it's admirable that the Hollister Downtown Association is willing to step up and take this on, because I know this is, you talk about bumpy roads. There will be bumpy roads over the next 10 years, and I understand that. But I think what this does is it commits the city to working on those. I think it will help. I know Mark has told me many times that a lot of his large sponsors that want to come here, they need that committee, because they set their budgets up in January, and they need to know where they're going to put their money. And this way, we're going to be on that list at least for 10 years, that they're going to see that. And I think it's nothing but positive can come out of that. And it takes it out of the, dare I say, the political wind that may change every 4 years, that you may get a council up here that's dead set against it. We're already committed to it, so that can't happen. Or we may get a police chief that doesn't want to work with us. Not that I expect the chief to change. I just want to keep everybody on their toes, you know. Not all of us are going to be here forever. So this is the way to go. This is the only way to go. We've had a success. We've proven that we can do it. We've proven, thanks to Dave and his work, that we can do it within our budget. And I think that there's nothing more to do but go forward. So I support this.
That's it. I too support the motorcycle rally. I'm not going to say too much about it. I think the people out there know how I feel about it. And I'm very supportive of a 10-year deal. And again, a 10-year deal will bring probably more vendors out there and more people that can plan for it ahead of time. And you know for sure it's going to be a 10-year deal. And I think that's really an advantage to having it for a 10-year deal. Other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Well, with that, Mr. Vice Mayor, and kudos to the police department on their work, because if we wouldn't be sitting here if the event wouldn't have been successful. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2013-124.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next one.
Sometimes we do it right.
Dave's probably thinking it's bittersweet. I did such a good job, I got to do it for 10 more years.
What, are you going to be here 10 years?
Just remember all the nice things you said.
Yeah, I'll do the next one.
Yeah,
thank you, Vice Chair Schettini. The next item really is sort of just writing that first one on its coattails. At the last council meeting, the council directed staff to put an item on the agenda to begin working with the Hollister Downtown Association on a contract to administer or promote, whatever language you folks want to use when talking about the rally. Staff is recommending that we enter into a 5-year contract with them. As with any contract, there's an early termination clause if the events don't come off without a hitch. Likewise, I'm sure there'll be an option to extend that 5-year contract for the next 5 years to fulfill that 10-year commitment if that's the desire of the council. I think it's staff's intention, or at least it's my intention, to try to get something done around October for adoption by you folks in November. That gives plenty of time to start planning again for the rally in 2014. I will say that the only difference for next year is that it will be a 3-day event as opposed to a 2-day event. So there will be additional costs that you'll see as it relates to public safety and whatnot. But like I said, this is our opportunity now to spend the next 8 to 10 weeks to iron something out with the Hollister Downtown Association to run this event. So,
okay, do we have any speaker cards on this? Okay, this resolution, you bring it before us for a review before we.
Well, actually, the resolution is just kind of a formality, just authorizing us to work specifically with the Hollister Downtown Association for the contract for the rally. You will get, I'm sure you'll probably have a study session or two prior to seeing the actual contract with the Hollister Downtown Association. Like I said, I'm trying to get that done probably, October, first part of November.
Okay.
Yeah, and the contract will have to be adopted formally by the council.
Okay. Pauline, got any questions?
Yeah, I just want to thank the Downtown Association for stepping up to the plate to do this. I think it's I really admire you to do that, because I know, like Ray was saying, it'll be ups and downs and humps and everything, but I feel real good, positive that it can be done, and then locally, which is really good. When you do things like this locally, there's a little bit more, I don't know if it's caring, or you see things that maybe other folks can't see. So I just want to thank you for that, and I also, approve this, support this.
I don't have anything to say.
Motion to approve Resolution 2013-125.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, done deal. Bring that mayor back out here. Getting lonesome in there?
All right, let's move on to item G1, report from City Council committees. Councilmember Gomez.
Yeah, I'm going to report out of COG on behalf of myself and Councilmember Schettini. So just really quick, we had an AMBAG presentation. You know, those get really exciting with in regards to the sustainable community strategy, and so there will be updates. We're looking at a few hybrid alternatives, and you can find that information on the AMBAG website. We also wanted to also let you know that Caltrans has launched a web-based tool on their website, Quick Map Link, to help people plan their trips, and lets you know about any issues that you may have traveling. So that's another thing that's available on the Caltrans website. And then we did have an update on the Highway 25 transfer. So that's on the Senate floor currently, and we're hoping that it will be signed so we can have the so we can begin the transfer procedures on Highway 25 downtown.
Oh, that's great news.
Yeah, so it's moving forward. It's bundled up with some other stuff, so it may take a little bit of time, but we're moving forward on that. And I think that was it, unless I missed anything, Councilmember Scatini.
No, you pretty much covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Scatini, do you have any reports?
No committee reports other than COG, and the report was made already.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
No, I have none.
Councilmember Valdivia?
Yeah, I just wanted to share with you, I don't know, I've never reported, it's never been reported, the activities with LAFCO, but since I'm on LAFCO, I just wanted to share that we hired a new director. He comes from Santa Barbara, and he's like an expert in, the programs and the rules and regulations, so we're really excited about that, the LAFCO committee. I'm on there as part of the city, and we have county, San Juan Bautista, and I think we also have a community person. But anyway, next month we're going to be having the training, and Elder Voice is going to be inviting anybody who wants to come, especially anybody here or to the training. And it's going to be, this is the first time since I've been here that this has ever happened, and I'm really excited because he's really going to share with us all the ins and outs about LAFCO, what it's about, and because of all the stuff, all the work that we do with concerning the properties and all that, to bring them into the city, et cetera. So I just want to share with you. I think it's going to be, I'm really excited about that because it's the first time we ever, usually we just had to, we get a book and we have to read the rules, or you learn as you go. So I think I hope some of you will go. I mean, he's going to send out the invitations. So.
Okay.
I'll be there as an alternate. I'll be attending as well.
Oh, okay, good. It's going to be in September.
Thank you. I'd like to report as far as the ad hoc committee to the search for or the RFP for the city attorney is out there. Councilmember Gomez and I have found some documents out there that we're using for our city, and we think it's going to apply pretty well, and I think the council members will be updated, and we're going out for that RFP now, right?
You should have received, both you and Councilperson Gomez should have received the draft version of the RFP this afternoon or earlier this morning. Yeah, we just wanted to get your comments. We'll put in the dates, and then we'll get it out there as soon as possible.
Perfect. Yeah, you'll hear from me by the end of day tomorrow if we have any
No problem.
changes.
No problem. Take whatever it takes.
Thank you very much. Any other reports? All right, let's move on to other reports from City Council and other members of staff. Councilmember Gomez, would you like to talk about any item?
I just have one announcement. So it's an event that's actually going to take place on Saturday on behalf of San Benito County LULAC and some other community partners, but it's going to be the first annual LULAC Health Fair. It's sponsored by LULAC Youth and the Young Adult Council. It's going to be on Saturday, the 24th, on the corner of Monterey and 4th, just right here around the corner, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There'll be some health education booths and that include some speakers and a few other things. So if you're interested, you could obviously contact LULAC or just shoot me an email, give me a call, and I have some of the information as well. So just wanted to make that announcement. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councilmember Scatini?
I have no report at this time.
Councilmember Friend
No, nothing else.
and Councilmember Valdivia.
No, I don't have nothing really to share, but I would like to, for us to close the meeting in Charlie Scott's memory. He passed, and he was on city council. I think he did one term or half a term. And then after, he was in the commission for a long time. He was very involved in the community. I went to his memorial services Saturday. A lot of folks came down to speak on his behalf. And I think it would be appropriate for us to close the meeting in his memory.
Absolutely. I'd like to take the time to congratulate our own Vice Mayor Scattini. The other night at the the National Safety Night Out, he received a recognition from Assemblyman Luis Alejo and our State Senator Anthony Canella for 52 years of law enforcement career. Pretty impressive, and we think it's
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I didn't receive any money, but that was quite a surprise.
But that's a big, huge accomplishment. It's nice to see that the state recognized that, so that's always a positive. Also they recognized Dorothy. Did you get her last name? I'm skipping my mind right now, but congratulations to her too for all she's done for the community. So congratulations.
That's Dorothy is Mike Sanchez and Margie Barria's sister, older sister. Yeah, thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you. All right, City Manager.
I just have a couple things. We mentioned the RFP for the city attorney that will be going out here shortly. The payment center that's located at 339 5th Street where folks can go in and pay their water bill. As you know, currently they are closed on Monday, but they are open early and they stay open late. As of September 9th, we're doing a meet and confer with the SEIU group. We're going to change that. They're going to be open Monday through Friday. Normal business hours will be 8:30 to 4:30 and open during lunch. What we've determined that we just aren't getting the traffic before hours or after hours to warrant those folks staying late and whatnot. So we feel that there's much more activity on Mondays when people are mad that we're closed. So we're like I said, we're going to probably start that on September 9th. Real quick on Caltrans Walgreens, as I informed the council, there was a slight hiccup. We went down and we have smoothed over that little problem. Caltrans is going to have us jump through a couple of hoops. Nothing that we can't resolve here pretty quickly, so common sense prevailed there. There is also one last thing is I'd like to get maybe some direction. The courthouse is nearing completion. I don't know the exact scheduled day that they will take occupancy, but it's around, I think, October, November. As a result of that, the courts are using a facility that's located right here on 5th Street in San Benito. An attorney by the name of Jim Paxton owns the property. He's been in contact with staff about the potential of leasing that facility to the city of Hollister, possibly for the engineering department. So I would, if it's something that the council may want to consider, I'd like to be able to get some sort of direction or consensus to at least have those conversations with Jim, take the engineering department down there, maybe city engineer Rudy Golnick, and have a look at the building and make sure that if it would be feasible. Of course, I'm a pretty big proponent of being close to City Hall from an efficiency standpoint. Having development services with planning and building down here and having engineering still up on the hill is not always the best thing. Across the street, it's still not perfect, but it's certainly much better than on the hill. So with your consensus, I'd like to maybe start having those discussions.
I think that's a good idea and a reasonable request.
Okay. And that would be it for me. Thank you.
So good. I'm sorry? Yeah, City Attorney? No. Do you have any comments? City Clerk? I have none. Chief?
I've got a couple things. This last weekend we had a community cleanup. It was all over town. Every single council district was included. We collected about 20 yards of garbage in the parks, some of the schools, organized by Carson and Vanessa Clower. It was actually a fantastic event. I was there all day. I took my family as well. We're going to have another one on the 14th of September, and we'll announce some things as far as targets for that one as well. This week we have Coffee with the Cops, 8:30 a.m. on the 21st, Mars Hill. And last week, of course, our community experienced a tragic crime of a homicide. And I want to express my condolences to the family and his friends, to Andy Guzman's family. And as you know, we were able to arrest two persons connection to that thus far, and those were all really from tips from our community, and I want to really encourage those that have information about this crime or others to give us a call. I appreciate those. It makes us more efficient, and really it gives us one leg up on crime in our community. So again, thank you to the community for that.
And thank you for the work that you did to make that happen so quickly. It shows a lot of what you're doing with the department there, and congratulations. Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a couple items. One, I'd like to thank you for the 3 reserves that were sworn in. Those are the 3 first reserves that were started their recruitment before June. I have another 57 to bring in front of you to be sworn in, so I'll bring those in larger groups, hopefully, as we get them through the process of their backgrounds and medicals and all that stuff that they have to jump through. Also, I'd like to ask the community if anyone wants to be a volunteer or reserve firefighter, try to get an application in. We're doing continuous recruitment, so I'm encouraging them to get their application in and get it down there to us. Also, just be advised, right now in the next 2 days, we're in red flag warning throughout the county and other counties north of us due to the lightning storms they're going over. So everybody in the community try to be fire safe, and we'll deal with the high winds for the next couple days. Also, good news, we received our FEMA grant for replacement of some of our breathing apparatuses. It was a $113,000 grant. So I'll be coming back to you to ask to spend that money on an air compressor to refill our air bottles that has gone down a few years ago, and we're replacing that as part of our replacement costs, and the air bottles that we need to get replaced that we wear on our backs during structure fires. So those are the couple items I've got for you. So go ahead.
Is that going to be a mobile plant?
Is that going to be what?
Is that going to be a mobile plant?
No, we have one right now. It's mobile. Our air unit that's stationed up at Station 2 is totally mobile. It can go anywhere in the county to fill bottles. This is a stationary unit. Right now, we have to fill air bottles. We have to start that unit up and run it on diesel and have it run for a couple hours just sitting there in the driveway. This way, we can have one that's hooked up to electricity and be powered and refill bottles as needed. So those are the items I've got.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that grant. And again, those that want to apply to be volunteers or reserves, they go to which station?
They can come to Station 1 or any of our stations to pick up an application. They can come here to City Hall as well as on the website. We have applications forms there that they can fill out, put down a reserve and the information, and sign it, and bring it down to City Hall, and we'll take a look at them.
How old do you have to be?
18 years of age, physically fit, driver's license, and any other information we can get on the application form.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to item G3.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to make this super quick. As part of the WTSA, or the Water Treatment Supply Agreement that the city, Sunny Slope, and the county water district, and there's a laundry list of things that each agency has to do. I'm going to try to take care of these as they come up for me, so we're not waiting till the last minute. So one of the action items is to have the council appoint a member of the staff to the advisory committee. At this time, staff is recommending that the city manager or his designee be appointed to that advisory committee for the WTSA.
Okay.
And that just needs to be in the form of a motion, I think.
Is that a motion or just consensus?
I think a motion.
Okay.
Motion.
I'll make a motion that we appoint the city manager to the water
Second.
treatment supply agreement.
Sorry.
Second.
Advisory committee.
Sorry.
First and a second,
Second.
second there. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item H through K, there is no business.
I move for adjournment.
Can we adjourn the meeting in memory to a fellow council member, former mayor, community activist, and one of the original people that helped bring back the motorcycle rally to our community, a veteran that was always out there at every event, and a good man that's really worked hard to make a lot of things happen here. Also, Jim Carrero, also another community member that spent his life trying to make our city better, and the husband to our animal control officer, Julie. So we miss them, and let's adjourn the meeting in their memory.
So moved in those memories.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.